Շնորհակալություն եմ Դոկտոր Կատենային, կատարած աշխատանքի համար եմ պատիվում եմ գիտական խորհրդի որոշում ունեցելու, որ Դոկտոր Կատենան հանդիսանալու է այսպես Երևանի Պետական Բժշկական Համալսարանի պատվավոր դոկտոր։
Good morning. I speak very fast, so if I'm speaking too fast, just say slow down, okay? I want you all to relax and enjoy the session. My name is Tom Katena. I'm an American doctor working in Sudan, in the mountains. I've been there for 9 years now. I attended my university in America at Brown University. I went to medical school at Duke University in North Carolina. After that, I did my residency in family practice in the state of Indiana. I was in the US Navy for 5 years. And then since January 2000, I've been working in Africa. I've just gone back to the US for brief visits, but I've been in Africa since January 2000, initially in Kenya, and now in Sudan for 9 years. So, first off, I'd like to say thank you all for coming this morning. I am really honored that all you people have shown up to hear this lecture. I want to thank the rector and Armin and all you people that have made this possible. I really appreciate your warm reception. Thanks very much for that. My goal for today is to show you what life is like at a rural hospital in the middle of nowhere in Africa, and to encourage you that with your training as a doctor, you can do a lot of good, even in a very isolated situation with limited resources, okay? So I really hope that I can use this brief time we have together to encourage you in your way forward as medical doctors, okay? So without further ado, I want to start the pictures. Feel free to ask questions along the way. If you don't understand something, you can ask me. This is for your benefit, okay? So feel free. I have a whiteboard here. I will write some of the words on. That'll make it a bit easier. Perhaps you can bring that over here so I can see it. This is where we are. We're in Sudan. Is there a pointer? A laser pointer? No, laser pointer. We're in Sudan. If you look up here, I'm in South Kordofan State here, and we're in the middle part there. Is the pointer on here? Oh, look at that, perfect. Okay, great. It's high tech, great. So we're in South Kordofan State, country of Sudan. We're here, we're in a rebel-held area. So we're in a state of civil war. We've been at war for the past 6 years. We're here in South Kordofan. You see the surrounding countries: South Sudan, Central African Republic, Chad, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Egypt in the north. This is more closely of Sudan. We're right here in the mountains. This small area here, it's about the size of Austria, to give you an idea, the country of Austria in Europe. I just want to show you some pictures here of some of our patients to give you an idea of what you could do at a rural hospital in Africa. This baby has hydrocephalus. If you see the size of his head, he's about 2 months old. And I can write in the board his diagnosis. My doctor's handwriting, sorry. You see that in the back? Hydrocephalus, okay, so too much water in the head. And how do you treat this? You put in what's called a VP shunt, ventriculoperitoneal shunt. It's a neurosurgical procedure that we're able to do in our hospital. So the first step is you drill a hole into the skull. This is our drill here, a little hand drill. We drill through the skull and put a shunt or a catheter into the brain. We tunnel that down under the skin, coming out through the abdomen, okay? Put the end of that catheter, oops, sorry. This is the peritoneal catheter here. That goes into the abdomen. The fluid from the brain, the excess fluid that the baby produces, goes into the catheter, down the shunt, into the abdomen, and drains there. This is a fairly common procedure. We do maybe 10 or 15 of these per year. For those of you in anesthesia, or those that want to do anesthesia, this is our anesthetic setup, okay? This thing here is called an OMV, an Oxford miniature vaporizer. We add halothane to this. That's our only agent. So we maintain general anesthesia with halothane. The patient breathes that through these bellows and is kept under general anesthesia with halothane anesthesia. It's a very simple device. The whole thing costs about $1,200 for our whole anesthesia setup. And all we need for this is halothane. This is our sterilization unit. So to sterilize all our instruments, this was made by our local guys there. This is charcoal, made locally. We make our own charcoal. These are steam sterilizers. So we just put this on the fire. It steam sterilizes all of our instruments, all of our gauze, everything. All of our sterilization is done here. This is a little sink, our toilets over here. That's our whole setup for a sterilization unit. We don't have any electrical sterilization. It takes too much power. We run on solar, we can't do it. So all of our sterilization is done with this very primitive technique, and it works very well. We have very low incidence of infection. So a very effective way to sterilize things in a resource-poor setting. I think we should start doing this in the US. I'm going to tell them to start doing this. It works very well. It saves a lot of power. This baby here, this thing is called an omphalocele. And let me see if I can spell it. It's omphalocele. You know, this is the kind of thing that when I was a medical student in your shoes, I read about, and I had no idea what they meant. But basically what happens, this are the baby's intestines. So where the umbilicus is, there's a big defect in the abdominal wall. There's a big hole up this big in the baby's abdominal wall. The muscles and fascia do not come together. The intestines prolapse out. So this baby came, this was the first day of life, the baby had just been born. We had to take this thing. I don't have the intermediate steps, but we took a mesh, a surgical mesh. We stitched it to the fascia around this defect, made like a small tent, and put all the intestines under that tent. Then day by day, we tightened that mesh, made it smaller and smaller and smaller. Gradually, the intestines were pushed back in the abdomen, the fascia stretched, so that after several weeks, we reached this point here, where we were able to close the abdominal wall with these retention sutures. For you guys that are surgeons, these are pieces of Foley catheter. This is the poor man's retention suture. So when there's a will, there's a way. There's a lot you can do with the basic things you have around. These are piece of Foley catheter that we use as our retention sutures. This is a proline stitch. And in this way, these stitches don't tear through the skin. This baby did very well, by the way. This is a picture of our hospital. These are the Nubia Mountains in the back. The hospital size is 450 beds. We opened the hospital in 2008, and initially we were supposed to be an 80-bed referral hospital. Due to the large number of patients coming, due to the outbreak of war and war casualties coming, we expanded to the point now we're a 450-bed hospital. And that includes pediatric ward, both medical and surgical, female and male wards, both medical and surgical, maternity ward. We have a TB and leprosy ward. And we have an antenatal clinic, immunization clinic, and outpatient clinic. All told, 450 beds. This is I'm sorry for this. This is somebody's arm that was amputated. I know this is the oldest Christian nation, so I don't want to tell you what this is, but this was a sign of rebellion against the dictator Omar Hassan al-Bashir. This arm was just reflexively put in that position to tell Omar Bashir, thank you for sending airplanes to bomb us and kill us, and to have my arm amputated. So sorry for that. This is, because of the overflow of patients, we use our verandas to put patients on. This is part of the male ward. This is a arm prolapse. So for any of you budding obstetricians, this is a fairly common problem. This mother, what happens, she went into labor, the membranes ruptured, and the baby's arm came out. So this is the baby's arm coming out from the birth canal, okay? So the only way to treat this, what happens is the arm prolapses out and the head is like this. There's no way to deliver this baby vaginally. The only option is to go into a C-section and pull the baby out. If I remember, this baby was already dead because it had been several days like this by the time they arrived to our hospital. We are extremely remote, so it can take some of our patients 7 days to reach us. And 99% of the time they have to reach us by foot, or sometimes by donkey, if they're lucky. They can find someone in the village who has a donkey, they go in the back of the donkey, and they reach us after a week's travel. This child has rickets, which is a fairly uncommon problem out part of the world. This area here, this is called a wind-blown appearance. It's like the child is in the wind and blowing the child over. This is all from rickets, lack of vitamin D. This lady here is a young woman with a ruptured ectopic pregnancy, okay? Ruptured ectopic pregnancy. So the pregnancy does not form within the uterus, but forms in the fallopian tube. The pregnancy grows when it reaches about 8 or 9 weeks. The tube ruptures. They get a massive internal hemorrhage, and blood fills the peritoneum. So in our part of the world, getting blood is extremely difficult. There's no blood bank. So we have to rely on the patient's relatives to donate blood to give to the patient. When they come in shock in an emergency, we don't have blood available. So what we do is what's called an auto-transfusion. This is the blood bag here, this is the needle. So we put the needle in the abdomen, we draw out the blood that's within the abdomen, we put it into the blood bag, that's turned around and transfused back into the patient, called the auto-transfusion. So it's a way to transfuse somebody who's had massive internal bleeding where you don't have enough available blood. We've done this several times and it's saved a lot of lives doing this. This is a Nubийsk's goiter. This is a non-toxic goiter, the thyroid gland. And as you can see, it's gotten massive proportions. Most likely the cause for this is iodine deficiency. We're in an area which has very low iodine in the diet, so they get these massive goiters. In most parts of the world, the salt that you eat is iodized. That can prevent these massive goiters. We don't have that, so we operated on this patient and removed about 99% of this thyroid, and she did fine afterwards. Anybody have an idea what this is? I think you'll never guess. This is a bladder stone. This is a bladder stone. So we opened up the patient's bladder and took this out. It looks like a small tree. This is a surgical knife behind you, so to give you an idea about the size. This is a consequence of living in a war zone. We have 2 guys that come from Uganda. We have many amputees. I think we've done about 300 in the past 5 or 6 years, 300 leg amputations. We have 2 orthopedic technicians. They come from Uganda. They come twice a year. They come up, they get all of our amputees together. They measure the legs, they take a plaster mold, take those molds back to Uganda, 2-day journey, 2 or 3-day journey, make the legs in Uganda. Next time they come up 6 months later, they bring us the legs back and they fit the amputees. They've done quite well with that. This terrible picture, this is a penile carcinoma, cancer of the penis. You really only see this in parts of the world where the men are uncircumcised and are exposed to human papillomavirus. You don't really see it in a circumcised population. This guy came to us with a very advanced case of cancer of the penis. His entire penis is eroded by cancer. He had been in the capital in Khartoum, and they're not able to operate, so he came to our bush hospital in the middle of nowhere for the operation. These are metastatic disease to his lymph nodes. This is the groin. This is all cancer, metastatic cancer from the penile cancer primary. Oops, sorry. This is post-operative. What we did in this case, you have to do what's called a total penectomy. So we had to remove his entire penis and bring his urethra, so we can pass urine, bring his urethra, this is the scrotum, bring his urethra down to the base of the scrotum and put a Foley catheter in to drain his bladder. Up here you can see this raw tissue here. We did a wide excision of those involved lymph nodes in his groin, took all this tissue out, and he did quite well post-op. This young lady has a disease called a cystosarcoma phalloides. This was another one I read about in medical school, never saw. When you go to Africa, you see these strange tumors. So, cystosarcoma, phalloides. There are two types of phalloides tumors. One type is malignant, the other is benign. This is a malignant phalloides tumor. This is the breast here, as you can see it. This is the normal breast. She's been breastfeeding a small baby at the time. So we did a wide excision, total mastectomy on the right. The problem with this tumor is it does not respond to radiation or chemotherapy. So if you cannot remove the entire tumor, it can grow back. I had a couple cases in Kenya where we did a wide excision and had to leave the skin open because the defect was too large. And literally, the time the patient was on the ward, the tumor started to regrow on the chest wall. They're terrible, terrible tumors. This lady here, this is a consequence of war. I remember this date very well. This was June 16, 2011. That morning, we had the war started, and we had several expatriates working with us. We had a Ugandan anesthetist, we had a Kenyan laboratory technician, a Kenyan pharmacist. They all left. They were all evacuated, left out. Myself and the religious sisters stayed behind to run the hospital. They were evacuated about 6 in the morning. About 8 o'clock in the morning, when the Antonov bombers came overhead and bombed the area, these people started showing up. So this lady was 16 years old. Her name is Urshalim. Urshalim in Arabic means Jerusalem. So Urshalim came to us with her arm completely mangled by an Antonov. You can see the face. She's not in physical shock, but psychological shock for being attacked that morning. This patient, we had to do a shoulder disarticulation. The entire arm was destroyed. We had to disarticulate from the shoulder, remove the entire arm. And she was recovering very well. About 2 weeks post-op, she developed tetanus. And for about a month, she was in extreme agony with tetanal spasms. I don't know if you have tetanus cases here in Armenia, but it's a consequence of dirty wounds. And there's opisthotonus, where they get the back arching, and they are in extreme agony. I would walk by her room in isolation 2 or 3 times a day, and she'd be screaming in pain. It was terrible. Despite huge doses of diazepam, huge doses of chlorpromazine to try to sedate her, she was still in agony from this tetanus. She survived. She had a month in agony, and she survived tetanus and survived all this. People there are very strong. This is another consequence of a aerial bombardment with a barrel bomb from the Antonov. This is the right buttock. About his entire buttock was removed with the shrapnel wound. Oops, sorry. I'm sorry for these slides, but I think it's good to show the reality of living in a war zone. These are children. This girl is about 6 years old. She was dead on arrival at our hospital. This is our mortuary back here. These are intestines. So she had shrapnel wounds in the abdomen with the intestines prolapsed. This is another child. This is what was left of her right arm. This thing was completely destroyed. Intestinal wound here. She was dead on arrival at our hospital. When she left her village after being bombed, she was alive, but she arrived in this condition dead. This boy also was about 10 years old. He was hit with an Antonov with shrapnel. This was the wound to his face. He was at a remote clinic that did a quick stitch job. When he arrived at our hospital, it was a Sunday morning, right before Mass. And all these stitches here I removed. There was pus and dirt coming out from the wounds, totally infected. We cleaned it out, debrided the wound. Unfortunately, 3 days later, he developed tetanus and died from this tetanus. This is a thyroid post-op. So this is a thyroid gland here, the whole thing taken out. This disease here, this is not war trauma. This is actinomycosis. Actinomycosis. So I don't know if this is an infection you have here. Actinomyces israelii. Actinomyces israelii is a bacterial infection which behaves like a fungus. That's how it's described. It's a very invasive bacteria. And you treat this surgically with deep debridement and cleaning and long-term antibiotics. Simple antibiotics. You can use either trimethoprim, sulfamethoxazole, or amoxicillin, which you've got to treat for about 6 weeks. And this lady had a complete cure of these lesions. Actinomycosis israelii is the bacteria. This is somebody who was hit with the Antonov. This is a local splint. This here is a piece of wood from a tree. This orange material here is tree bark. So they use the bark of a tree as instead of gauze. They don't have gauze in the rural places. They use that for gauze and for wrapping these wounds. This is another consequence of a bombardment by an aerial bomb, by a barrel bomb. This is a upper arm. This is the elbow here. This is the chest to orient you. This is the bone, fractured in many places. This kid was about 15 years old. He had a lot of tissue loss, okay? The biceps muscle is here. This is proximal. This is distal biceps. This part was all destroyed by the bomb. This kid, I'm showing this slide because this kid had a complete recovery. All we did with him was put him in a sling, like this, had an exercise. The bone came together, the tissue healed itself with time. He had a complete 100% recovery, full use of his arm after about 2 or 3 months. So the body, you never underestimate the reparative process of the human body and how much the body can do for itself. Sometimes as doctors, we have to just get out of the way and let the body heal itself. This is the knee. This is the femoral condyle. This again was a barrel bomb from the Antonov. No, let's take it back. This was a Sukhoi 24. Sukhoi 24 is a former Soviet jet. The government of Sudan bought 13 Sukhoi 24s from the government of Belarus. And they're supersonic jet bombers, basically bombing Stone Age era villages. This is what the government's doing. These people were in an area. This lady was selling tea in her village. It was hit with a bomb from the Sukhoi. Her entire knee was totally destroyed. So we had to do an above the knee amputation for her. This is a typical wound from a landmine. So I know in Armenia, if you're in conflict with Azerbaijan, you have a lot of landmines, and I'm sure your surgeons here have a lot of experience with this. Typical landmine injury, you step on a landmine and the explosive force blows up, destroys the bone, it tears all the muscle off the bone, and this is what you're left with. This guy ended up with above the knee amputation. This is a baby, 8 months, dead on arrival from being hit with a barrel bomb from the Sudan Air Force. This is our mortuary. This baby is alive, believe it or not. This is his arm that was amputated by a barrel bomb drawn from the Antonov. This boy here is about 10 years old. If you see here, this is dry gangrene, okay? Dry gangrene. This is where the fracture was. So one of the problems with our area, we have no medical expertise. So this kid fell, he had a fall, an outstretched arm injury, fractured his arm. He was treated with a local splint. So what they do is they put the arm, with any upper extremity fracture, the local bone setters put the arm in extension, they tie those sticks in that bark, and they make it extremely tight. So all of the blood supply to his lower arm was compromised, it was cut off. So this is what happens when you cut off the blood supply to an arm. This hand was as hard as a rock. We had to do an above the elbow amputation for him here. There's no way to save this arm. Another landmine, typical landmine explosion injury. Right leg is gone. This leg is destroyed. We had to do a bilateral amputation. This patient here is walking with 2 prosthetic legs. Okay, he's walking to this day.
We all really are very, very impressed of your job. Thank you very, very much on behalf of all medical school, and it's really great and touchable for us that you are now also is an honorary doctor of Yerevan State Medical University. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you all for your attention today. I hope you learned something and we'll have something to go forward. I'm around this whole week, so if you guys see me around, you have questions, you want to talk to me on the side, I've got nothing else to do, so I'm yours for this week if you have questions. You want to chat about things, medical, non-medical, philosophical. I'm a bit of a rockhead. I'm not a great thinker, but you can ask, I'll tell you my opinion on things. Thank you very much.